something big is brewing in Cleveland, and if you're a Browns fan, you'll want to stick around for it. The latest news has some fans excited, and could this be a sign, a possible landing spot? Let's break it down, but first make sure to hit that like button, as I'm keeping you updated daily. Picture this: veteran quarterback Kirk Cusins is suddenly spotted at not one, but two different restaurants in the Cleveland area. First, he shows up at a Chipotle in Westlake. Okay, maybe it's just a quick bite. But then, not long after, he's spotted again, this time at City Barbecue in Avon, Ohio. Now, I don't know about you, but when an NFL quarterback happens to be in Cleveland while the Browns are actively looking for QB options, my radar starts to go off. And it turns out I'm not the only one. Browns Twitter exploded last night, and I dove headfirst into this wildfire of speculation. Now, of course, as soon as the internet started running wild with the rumors, so-called NFL insiders jumped in to throw water on the fire. Ian Rappaport, along with other verified reporters, insisted that Cousins being in Cleveland had absolutely nothing to do with the Browns. According to them, it was purely coincidental. Nothing to see here, folks. But let's be real for a second. What are the odds? Cousins, a seasoned quarterback who just signed a huge deal with the Falcons, just happens to be in Cleveland while the Browns are rumored to be looking for QB depth? And remember, we still don't have a solid explanation as to why he was here in the first place. So I'm going to be stubborn about this. Call me crazy, but I just don't buy that Cousins was randomly in Cleveland. I threw this theory out on Twitter, and of course, some people were quick to shoot it down. But let me break down exactly why I believe his appearance in town has some kind of connection to the Browns. Now, before you say, but Petey, that would be tampering. The Falcons would have to give permission for Cousins to talk to another team. You're right. But here's where things get interesting. Last year, Kirk Cusins was involved in a tampering situation when he met with the Falcons earlier than he was supposed to. Atlanta ended up losing a draft pick because of it. So ask yourself this: if there's one quarterback who might bend the rules and meet with a team before he's technically allowed to, wouldn't it be the same guy who did it just last year? The NFL punishes tampering when it's caught, but let's not pretend it doesn't happen all the time. Maybe this was Cousins testing the waters. And let's talk about what tampering really means here. If the Browns were officially meeting with Cousins, then yes, that's a clear violation. But what if he wasn't meeting with the Browns directly? What if he was just in town for a personal visit, while also conveniently checking in with people connected to the organization? Maybe a neutral doctor, someone the Browns trust, was evaluating his health. That wouldn't technically be the Browns talking to him, right? Or, another theory, what if he was house hunting? You don't buy property in a city unless you plan on spending a lot of time there. And for a guy with $380 million in career earnings, I doubt he's looking for a summer vacation home in Northeast Ohio. Now, before we dive into even more theories, let's talk about another big argument people are making against the Cousins to Cleveland speculation. The Browns front office wasn't even in town. Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry, and even team owner Jimmy Haslam were all traveling for pre-draft visits. They were in Alabama, then Florida, then Penn State, and as of Friday, they were in Ole Miss checking out Jackson Dart's Pro Day. Next week, they'll be in Colorado for Shedeur Sanders' workout. So if the Browns' decision-makers weren't in Cleveland, how could they be meeting with Cousins? Fair point. But think about this: do NFL teams always need their head coach and GM present to lay the groundwork for something big? Teams have scouts, personnel directors, and plenty of other staff members who can gather information without the top brass being physically present. And let's not forget, phone calls exist. Just because Stefanski and Berry weren't in town doesn't mean conversations weren't happening. If anything, it gives the Browns some plausible deniability. And here's where things get even more interesting. As we piece all of this together, it's not just about whether Cousins was meeting with the Browns. It's about what the Browns' quarterback strategy actually is right now. They've been linked to multiple prospects in the draft, and they've also been exploring trade possibilities. So if Cousins was in Cleveland for any reason remotely connected to football, it could be a sign that the Browns are looking at a much bigger quarterback move than anyone realizes. So let me turn this over to you guys. What do you think? Was Kirk Cousins really in Cleveland for nothing more than a random dinner run, Or is there something bigger going on here? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And here's where things get even wilder. What if this isn't just about Kirk Cousins? What if Cousins showing up in Cleveland is just the tip of the iceberg, a distraction from an even bigger move the Browns might be planning? Because let's be honest, this front office has a track record of keeping things quiet until the last second. They don't leak information. They don't tip their hand. And when they make a move, it usually catches everyone off guard. Think back to the Deshaun Watson trade. Nobody saw that coming. One day, the Browns were out. The next, they had him locked in with a record-breaking contract. The same thing happened when they landed Amari Cooper. No rumors, no build-up, just boom, done deal. That's how Andrew Berry operates. So if we apply that same logic here, the fact that everyone is suddenly talking about Kirk Cousins could actually mean the Browns are working on something else entirely. Maybe it's another quarterback. Maybe it's a blockbuster trade for a top-tier wide receiver. Or maybe, just maybe, they're setting the stage for a draft day shocker that nobody saw coming. But let's circle back to Cousins for a second because there's one more angle we haven't fully explored. We know the Browns have been doing their homework on the quarterbacks in this draft. We know they've been traveling all over the country to scout guys like Drake May, Caleb Williams, and J.J. McCarthy. But what if the reason Cousins was in Cleveland was because the Browns are considering a veteran and a rookie? What if their plan isn't just to get one quarterback, but to completely overhaul the position with a short-term starter and a long-term future face of the franchise? Because look, we all know what the Browns' biggest weakness has been in recent years: stability under center. Since 1999, this franchise has started more quarterbacks than any other team in the league. They've had flashes of success, but no consistency. If the front office has decided that they're done with the uncertainty, that they're done waiting for maybe guys to develop, then going after a proven veteran while also drafting a top prospect could be the boldest, smartest move they could make. And that brings us back to Cousins' contract. Atlanta gave him a big deal, but it's structured in a way that makes it tradable. If the Falcons are already regretting that signing, or if they're looking at the draft and thinking about grabbing their own young QB, they could be open to moving him. And if that's the case, the Browns could be in the perfect position to swoop in. So here's the big question: if the Browns do make a move for Cousins, do you think it's the right one? Should they be going after a veteran like him, or should they be focusing purely on the draft? And do you think all of this speculation is just smoke, or is there actually something real happening behind the scenes? Drop your comments below, and if you're loving this deep dive into Browns rumors, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Because trust me, if something big happens, you're going to want to be here when it breaks.